I took time off work to attend my brother's wedding. When I got there, I found out I wasn't even invited inside. They just wanted me to help set up. I put down the decorations, smiled, and said, "Good luck without me." They didn't even notice I was gone until it was too late. Hi Reddit. I'm 39F and, well, this is one of those stories I've sat on for a while, because for a long time I didn't really know what to make of it. I didn't want to sound petty or dramatic or like I was blowing things out of proportion. But after a few months, and the encouragement of my husband and therapist, I've realized that no, this was actually messed up. And the people involved knew exactly what they were doing. To keep things clean, I'll change some names. My brother will be Lucas, his fiancée now wife is Chloe, and my parents are just mom and dad. You'll see soon enough why I don't feel like giving them warm nicknames. For some background, Lucas is 5 years younger than me. We were never particularly close growing up, mostly because our parents made it very clear which one of us mattered more. I was the quiet, responsible one. Good grades, part-time job in high school, never caused a fuss. But Lucas? He could do no wrong. He'd crash the car? He's just a kid. It's a learning experience. I'd forget to unload the dishwasher? Why are you being lazy and disrespectful? You get the idea. Still, I tried to be a good sister. I genuinely did. I went to his sports games, helped him with homework, gave him rides before he got his license. And when he got into trouble, real trouble, I was the one who drove him to a clinic at 2 a.m. when he was too scared to tell mom and dad what was going on. But once we both hit adulthood, things changed. Or more accurately, I changed. I stopped trying so hard to be part of a family that clearly didn't value me as anything more than a support system. I moved to another city for work, got married, built a life that felt like mine. I still visited on holidays, sent cards and gifts, stayed polite, but I pulled back emotionally. And honestly, that distance saved me. So when Lucas called me one evening, about 6 months ago, I was a little surprised. "Hey, just wanted to let you know Chloe and I set a date," he said. "It's gonna be in late September." "Wow, congrats," I said, meaning it. "That's exciting. Where's the venue?" He gave me the name of a charming little vineyard a few hours away. "We're doing it low-key, just family and close friends." "Sounds lovely. Let me know what dates to block off. I'll talk to my manager and get time off." "Great," he said. "We're really hoping you can come. You're important to me." That last sentence stuck with me. It felt sincere. I hadn't heard Lucas say anything like that in a long time. Maybe this wedding was going to be a step toward reconnecting. Maybe we were finally going to act like siblings again. So I arranged everything. Took 2 days off work, not easy to do in my field. Booked a room at a nearby B&B, even spent a good chunk of change on a dress and shoes that were vineyard wedding appropriate. I didn't ask about being in the wedding party. I figured if they wanted me involved, they'd tell me. A couple of weeks before the big day, Lucas texted me and said they could really use help setting up on the morning of the wedding. "No problem," I told him. I'd be there early. So I showed up around 9 a.m., comfortable clothes on, ready to help. The vineyard was beautiful, rolling hills, white chairs, string lights already halfway hung. I saw Chloe immediately, clipboard in hand, barking orders at two young women who looked absolutely miserable. "Hi, Chloe," I said, walking up to her. She blinked. "Oh, you're here. Good." Then she handed me a box of centerpieces and pointed toward a barn-like structure where the reception would be. "No time to chat. We're way behind schedule." Okay, a little brisk, but I brushed it off. Weddings are stressful. Over the next hour, I was joined by a few more people, mostly Chloe's cousins, from what I gathered. I set up centerpieces, helped hang signs, moved tables, fetched water. I didn't mind until I noticed something odd. Everyone else had lanyards, like actual printed badges with wedding party or vendor labels. They were also all chatting about the ceremony timeline, where the photographers would be stationed, who was doing what and when. No one had given me a lanyard. No one had told me where to go after setup. I chalked it up to oversight until I saw a printed guest list sitting unattended on a table next to the caterer's trays. I shouldn't have looked. I really shouldn't have looked. but something in my gut said, check it. My name wasn't on it. Not under bride's family, not under groom's family, not anywhere. I flipped it over. I checked again. Nothing. At first, I thought there must be a mistake. So I walked over to Lucas, who was standing near the main building with his groomsmen. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. Just a weird question. I didn't see my name on the guest list. Is there a different copy, maybe? He looked at me like I had asked if aliens were catering. Oh, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, about that. What he said next still blows my mind. Chloe thought it might be better if you just helped out in the morning and then headed out before the guests arrived. You know, to keep it intimate. We're really trying to keep numbers tight. I blinked. Wait, you want me to help set up for your wedding, but not actually attend the wedding? Don't take it personally, he said quickly. It's not that we didn't want you here. It's just, you know, logistics. And Chloe's family is really big. I just stood there. This wasn't an oversight. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. And the worst part? He didn't even look guilty. He looked embarrassed, sure, but not sorry. I nodded slowly, handed him the little box of name cards I'd been holding, and said, as calmly as I could, good luck without me. Then I turned around, walked back to my rental car, and drove off. They didn't even notice I was gone. Not right away, anyway. I didn't cry on the way back to the B&B. I think my body was too stunned to allow for that yet. It was one of those quiet drives where everything feels a little off, like the air itself has a weight to it. I kept thinking about that moment when Lucas looked me in the eye and basically said I wasn't welcome, not in anger, not in some heated argument, but with that calm, almost indifferent tone that cuts so much deeper than yelling ever could. When I got back to my room, I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Just sat. My suitcase was still open from that morning, half unpacked, with my dress hanging from the closet door. It was a pale green number, something soft and pretty I'd picked out months ago because Chloe's email had said garden party formal. She never explicitly invited me, I realized. There was no invitation in the mail, no evite. Just that casual phone call from Lucas, followed by a text asking for help. I had filled in the blanks myself, assuming I was wanted there, because why wouldn't I be? That assumption, it turned out, was my biggest mistake. I think what hit me hardest wasn't being excluded from the ceremony itself, it was the fact that they hadn't even planned to tell me. If I hadn't seen that guest list, I would have just kept working like a fool until the other guests arrived and someone quietly asked me to leave. That thought made my stomach turn. The humiliation of it. I texted my husband, Darren, and told him briefly what happened. He'd stayed home to look after our dog and because he couldn't get the time off work. The three little dots popped up immediately, then disappeared, then reappeared. He finally responded with, "Are you okay? Want me to drive up?" I told him no, I needed time to think, and I'd call him later. But I wasn't okay. For hours I just sat there, going over every interaction I'd had with Lucas and Chloe in the past year, trying to find the moment I'd apparently become expendable. There were signs, now that I looked back. The way Chloe always referred to family, as if it didn't include me. The bridal shower I wasn't invited to. Lucas not asking me to do a reading or even stand up during the wedding, despite the fact that I literally raised him half the time when we were kids. The way our parents always dismissed my questions with vague, "Oh, we're not sure about the details yet," every time I asked what role I'd be playing in the big day. At around 3 p.m., while I was still staring out the window, there was a knock at my door. It was the elderly woman who ran the B&B, Mrs. Ellery. She was holding a small envelope. "This came for you," she said with a kindly smile. A young woman dropped it off. She didn't give her name. I thanked her and shut the door. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note. "Hi, I'm really sorry. I thought you knew. If I'd realized you weren't actually invited, I would have said something sooner. That was really unfair. You didn't deserve that." Annie. Annie was one of Chloe's cousins, I remembered. Quiet girl, maybe 22. She'd been helping hang signs with me that morning. The note was simple, but it felt like the first human thing anyone connected to that wedding had done all day. I clutched it in my hand for a while, feeling a strange swirl of anger and gratitude. Annie knew. She had seen what happened and had enough decency to say something. The question now was, what was I going to do about it? I wasn't the kind of person who liked drama. I wasn't going to crash the ceremony or throw a fit or cause a scene. That wasn't me. But something about the way they had used me, the way they had dismissed me like hired help and not a sister, it sat in my bones like ice. I pulled out my laptop. I'd seen the seating chart. I knew how the tables were arranged. I also knew something they hadn't realized in their rush to exclude me. I had done more than just hang centerpieces. I had unpacked the welcome bags for the hotel guests. I had helped the florist identify the family tables. And most importantly, I had full access to the shared online folder Chloe had sent me 2 weeks ago when she asked if I could help check the final RSVPs. I hadn't even thought about it since. Until now. And as I opened that folder and looked at all the editable documents sitting there, menus, table assignments, printed programs, place cards, something in me shifted. Not rage exactly, but something colder, calmer. I stared at the screen for a while before doing anything. I wasn't looking to sabotage their whole day. As angry and hurt as I wasn't interested in revenge for the sake of cruelty. But I was interested in consequences. And I knew them well enough to understand what would actually sting. Chloe was, to put it kindly, meticulous. She was the kind of person who sent calendar invites for brunch. Her entire wedding was color-coded and scheduled to the minute. That online folder she'd shared with me? It wasn't just for reference, it was her command center. Everything ran through it. So, I took my time. I read everything, double-checked what documents were linked to what vendors, what PDFs were marked final, and which ones were still editable. I wasn't going to ruin anything. I wasn't going to delete the table numbers or mess with the catering orders. But I could make some adjustments. First, the printed programs. They had listed the wedding party, parents of the bride and groom, maid of honor, best man, bridesmaids, groomsmen, and then a short list of special mentions. Chloe's childhood piano teacher made the cut. So did her hairstylist. My name? Not there. So I added myself. Just one line, tucked neatly beneath the special thanks section, with love to the groom's sister, Marin, for her help and support. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to make someone at the ceremony raise an eyebrow and wonder, wait, who's Marin? And where is she? Then I looked at the table assignments. Each table had a little description, fun anecdotes like college friends, cousins from up north, bride's book club, and so on. Lucas's table had one that made me pause. It read, Family of the groom, our most cherished. Right. I didn't delete it. I just changed it to Family of the groom, handpicked with care. Accurate, in a twisted sort of way. Next came the welcome packet they'd prepared for guests staying at the hotel. It included a QR code to access the weekend itinerary, Chloe's contact info, emergency numbers, and a little paragraph thanking everyone for joining us to celebrate this intimate gathering of our closest loved ones. Again, I didn't touch the logistics, but I edited the intro paragraph slightly. Thank you for making time to be here with us. While we wish we could celebrate with everyone who has been part of our lives, we've chosen to keep this a very intimate gathering. If someone you expected to see isn't here, please know that decisions were made with intention. That one took me a few minutes. It was subtle, but it would plant a seed. By the time I finished, it was nearly 6 p.m. The ceremony would have started by then. I imagined the rows of chairs, the delicate music playing, the string lights glowing just so. I imagined Chloe glancing at her program and seeing my name, wondering how that had slipped through. And I imagined Lucas, standing up there, smiling nervously, probably assuming I had just slunk away quietly, like always. I closed my laptop. It would have been enough to leave it at that, I think. But something still didn't sit right with me. This whole wedding had been orchestrated not just to exclude me, but to use me, to squeeze out whatever value they could, then politely escort me out the back before the real party began. So I opened my phone and scrolled through my photos. A few from earlier that morning, snapshots I'd taken while helping, thinking they might want behind-the-scenes pictures. One was of the reception space just after we'd finished hanging the garland. Another showed the welcome table, neatly arranged with guest favors and the updated programs I'd quietly adjusted. I posted 3 of them to Facebook with a short caption, "Beautiful venue." Spent the morning helping set up for my brother's big day. Wasn't invited to stay for the ceremony, but I'm sure it'll be lovely. Nothing accusatory. Nothing cruel. But the message was clear. I turned off my phone after that. Didn't want to watch the comment section light up. I just sat there for a while, ate the fruit I'd stashed in my bag, and tried to let the day settle into place. But the peace didn't last long, because around 7:30, there was a knock at my door. A loud one. I walked over slowly, unsure if I was imagining it. Another knock, faster this time, followed by a voice. "Marin? It's me." Opened the door. "Lucas." His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't even firm. If anything, he sounded confused, off balance, like something had just dawned on him, and he wasn't sure what to do with it. I didn't move. He knocked again. "Marin, please." Still, I waited. Then I heard him sigh, then say something I didn't expect. "I didn't know Chloe didn't invite you." I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, hand on the doorknob, listening. He didn't knock again. He didn't raise his voice or repeat himself. He just stood on the other side of that door in silence, waiting. Finally, I opened it a crack. Lucas looked off. Not angry. Not sad. More like someone who'd just found a piece of a puzzle under the couch and suddenly realized the picture was different than they thought. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside without a word. He walked in slowly, glancing around the room like he was expecting some kind of scene, maybe me crying, or packing, or throwing things. But everything was tidy. Still, I'd sat with my thoughts too long to waste them on dramatic displays. Lucas sat on the small sofa by the window. I didn't join him. I stood. He looked up at me. "Chloe told me you were too busy with work to be part of the ceremony." I blinked at him. "What?" "She said you offered to help with the setup, but that you didn't want to sit through the whole wedding. That you'd leave before it started. She said you found that stuff boring." I didn't respond right away. I needed a second to process the sheer gall of it. So that was the story she told him. That I'd volunteered to help out and then, what? Casually opt out of my own brother's wedding? And he believed it. I felt something cold tighten behind my ribs. "And you didn't find that strange? That I'd come all the way here, take time off work, spend money on a dress and a hotel, just to hang string lights and leave?" Lucas rubbed his face, like he'd just started putting 2 and 2 together for the first time. "I don't know. I guess I just assumed. You know, you don't love big events, and Chloe said you didn't want to be in the pictures. She told me not to make a big deal out of it." I stared at him, not even sure where to begin. "Lucas," I said slowly, "Chloe never invited me to your wedding. Not once. I thought maybe it was an oversight, or that something got lost in the mail. So I kept waiting. Then you asked me to come early to help set up, and I thought, maybe you just assumed I knew I was included. I didn't see a guest list until this morning," I added. "I saw everyone's name. I wasn't on it." He looked down at his hands. "She said you didn't want to come." I let out a breath through my nose. "Calm. Careful." She lied. There was a long pause. Lucas looked like he wanted to argue, but couldn't quite bring himself to do it. "I didn't know," he said again, softer this time. "I swear I didn't know." I let the silence stretch. Let it sit there like a mirror he didn't want to look into. Finally, he asked, "Why didn't you say anything?" I raised an eyebrow. "When?" "During the 30 minutes I was handing out table signs and getting asked to redo the flower vases? Or maybe right before I left, when you asked me to head out quietly because guests were arriving." He winced. That part, he remembered. That part was him. "She told me you'd be uncomfortable around the bigger groups," he said. "That you wanted to help, but didn't want to be a guest." That's how she put it. "Lucas," I said quietly, "she didn't forget to include me. She planned it. Every piece of it." He nodded slowly, the weight of it finally starting to land. "Do Mom and Dad know?" I gave a small, humorless laugh. "They've been floating around for the last 24 hours pretending not to notice. Chloe told them I didn't want to be there either. They just didn't want to challenge her." Lucas sank deeper into the sofa. I. I'm sorry. I nodded, but I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It's your wedding, I said. You get to make your choices. But just remember, your choices are what tell people who they are to you and who you are to them. He didn't speak. I picked up my phone and checked the time. You should get back. Dinner's probably starting soon. He stood slowly. Are you coming? That made me laugh, sharp and dry. No, Lucas. I'm not. He hesitated, then nodded, looking defeated in a way I'd never seen before. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just the beginning of it. As he reached for the doorknob, he turned back. I don't know how to fix this. You won't, I said, because you didn't break it alone. He opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. I watched him go, then quietly closed it behind him. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Annie. Did you post that picture on Facebook? Chloe's mom saw it. She's freaking out. So is Chloe. I didn't reply right away, just smiled to myself. Then another message came through. Chloe's asking where the printed programs came from. She says someone must have tampered with the file. I think she suspects you. I sat down, picked up the envelope Annie had delivered earlier, and tucked it into my bag. I stayed in that hotel room the rest of the night. I didn't go to the reception. I didn't peek at any photos. I didn't respond to any of the half-hearted texts from distant cousins saying things like, "Are you coming?" Or "Did something happen?" I just let the storm swirl around without stepping into it. The next morning, I got up early, packed my things, and checked out. There was no dramatic exit. No teary goodbye. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I didn't let them write me out of the story without writing myself back in. On the drive home, I got a call from my mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then one from my dad. Same thing. Both messages were careful, neutral. Just wondering where you went, my mom said. We missed you at the reception. Hope everything's okay. I didn't bother replying. There was no point. 3 days later, Lucas showed up at my apartment. I was home. I debated pretending I wasn't, but something told me he wasn't here to repeat the same script. When I opened the door, he looked tired, older than he had 3 days ago, like the consequences had finally caught up. Can we talk? He asked. I stepped aside. He didn't sit. He just stood in the middle of the room, holding a small white box in both hands like it was fragile. I found this, he said, holding it out to me. I took it, opened it. Inside was the bracelet I'd given him years ago, a silver chain with a tiny compass charm. I'd bought it for him after he got accepted into a teaching program out of state. He used to wear it every day. I thought I lost it, I said quietly. You didn't. I took it off during the move last year and forgot where I packed it. He looked down at his hands. I've been thinking a lot, he said, about how Chloe made me feel like choosing her meant trimming everything else away. I kept telling myself she just wanted things a certain way, that it wasn't personal. But it was. It was personal. He finally Saturday. I let her rewrite the story of who we are to each other, he said. I saw it happening, and I let it. Because it was easier. I didn't interrupt. I let him sit in it. She's angry, he continued. Not about the programs. Or the photos. About you posting it all. About people asking why you weren't there. About her family noticing. She said you embarrassed her. I raised an eyebrow. I told the truth. I know, he said. And it made her uncomfortable. Because she built this perfect image of the wedding, and the second someone pointed out the crack in the foundation, it all got shaky. He sighed. I'm not asking you to fix anything. I just wanted to say, I see it now. And I'm sorry I didn't before. It wasn't an instant fix. It wasn't a magical reversal of the hurt. But it was something. Something real. Not pity. Not guilt. Just recognition. I can't promise everything's going to be different overnight, he said. But I do want to make things right. Even if it takes time. I nodded. I believe you, I said. We sat for a while, talking. Not about Chloe. Not about the wedding. Just memories. Childhood stories. Things that used to be simple before everything got complicated. He didn't stay long. When he left, the air felt a little clearer. Over the next few months, things slowly shifted. Lucas started reaching out more, checking in, asking how I was doing, inviting me to meet for coffee or go on walks. At first, it felt a bit awkward, but we kept showing up, and little by little, it got easier. As for Chloe, well, she never reached out. Not even once. Lucas told me, gently, that the wedding fallout turned into a bigger issue between them. That Chloe couldn't understand why he didn't shut it down sooner. Why he let people talk, let questions be asked, let me disrupt the narrative. He told her if she wanted to build a life with him, she had to accept that his family wasn't just a prop for her version of perfect. They ended up going to counseling. I don't know all the details. He didn't share much, and I didn't ask. I knew enough. All I really cared about was that my brother, the real version of him, was trying. And that, for the first time in a long time, I felt like he saw me. Not as someone in the background. Not as someone to set aside when it was inconvenient.